I have used quite a number of activities on that particular day, and I usually use a number of activities to get students to work on an individual level and engage with the group and the whole class. So I usually start, and on that day as well, I start by giving a short, like a lecture, more like a talk, where I identify key questions or key issues that I want students to discuss. And then the whole point to class is to actually turn these broader questions into very specific questions that each student is thinking about. And to do that successfully, engaging in group thinking, which is what we did that day, kind of small group discussions, then gallery walk, looking at what each others have done, and that it just happened that on that day they submitted assignment 1, so that was available for viewing, and it was quite of interest to students to see what other students have done. And that's also engaging, and part of strategy is to see what other students have done, and they measure that way, that they can do better or where they can improve. We also use group discussions are pretty much normal part of any class really in architectural discipline. Group discussions, peer review, discussions on topics, and presentations of these ideas to a group and to a broader classroom. I think we pretty much engage with that wide range of activities regularly, but on some classes are more suited to more activities in a day.
So that day actually we had an activity that I didn't expect to happen, which was they broke us down into the typologies of different buildings that we had to research, and I've never talked to some of the students that I was grouped with. So it was good to interact with them and then get their opinions and their sort of experience based on their research, and we got to share that, so that was really good. And then as a whole class, we shared that again, not just through verbal sharing, but also through some drawings that we did in class, which is not something that's commonly done, I guess. It was a very different approach to learning, and I thought that was a creative, more engaging approach as well, especially for, I don't think it's just good for architecture students, but it's also for any other student. I think that would be quite useful.
Benefits seem to be many, because I think students like that student-focused way of thinking about the classroom is quite animates students, and it makes them kind of own what they're doing. So even though there was a broader topic in designing diversity, students are asked to explore various buildings around Sydney that belong or have come out of community engagement, so they're either religious or community buildings or some other kinds of community centres, usually connected to migrant groups and new arrivals to Australia. So they have a historical and social context. So I could have made a class that we all look at the same buildings, or 5 same or 1 same, but I ask students to find a building that is of most interest to them and then explore that particular building. So every student has a unique task, one that is that they have identified themselves in amongst those given. So I think benefits are many because they just feel like it's their own assignment.
I think that it's really good because a lot of Dijana's courses, there's a lot of online content, and so you learn, like you do the traditional readings, and she's also got videos, which is quite good, so you don't have to read all the time, which I like because I don't like reading. So I sort of get all the information, the context before class, and then when I come into class, that's when we discuss it. And then I think it's through discussion that you start to understand what you've read, and you've had that chance to bounce ideas off other people. Where in traditional classes, like what I'm doing at the moment is just a lecture class, and just sitting in a lecture trying to retain information about new terms that you've never heard about before, and it's kind of just goes really fast, and you don't have a chance. Like, even though they say put your hand up, ask questions, not many people do, because they're sort of they just keep going through this information when you sort of have time to ask the questions. And I think one of the main things that when I was reflecting on this question, was that it's more a question-based class than an information-based class, which is really good because it makes you actually think and understand what you're learning and what you're unpacking, rather than just, here's the information, like, do you understand it, yes or no? It's like, we talk about it and then you learn off others. So, yeah.